Hey, thanks for joining us on another podcast on Wisconsin Places Are Cool. We are going to dive into a bit of a controversy. So, the Milwaukee Public Museum, which has really been around in one form or another since 1884, it is talking about and actually building a brand new location. So they're going to be moving from their current location, which is on Wells Street near the Milwaukee County Courthouse and across the street from the Milwaukee Public Library central location. Now, a number of people are very concerned about this because they are worried that the new museum, number one, it looks very, very modern, and it's just not their idea of what the Milwaukee Public Museum should look like. Secondly, the square footage on this new museum building is going to be significantly smaller than the current building. So the worry is they're going to lose some of the incredible exhibits that exist already. The biggest one that's gotten the most hoopla is the exhibit Streets of Old Milwaukee. And if you've been there, it's so cool. It takes you back to Milwaukee in the 1880s. It's cobblestone streets and old shops and kind of the vintage manufacturing and industrial companies that are all set up there as well. So it's really, really cool. So anyhow, there's a big concern. It doesn't look like the museum should look. And secondly, that it's not going to be big enough to house all the cool exhibits. So let's dive into this a little bit and, leave your comments below and let us know what you think. So let's dive into some quick history about the Milwaukee Public Museum. Although it was officially chartered in 1882, its existence can be traced back to 1851, to the founding of the German English Academy in Milwaukee. The Academy's principal, Peter Engelmann, encouraged student field trips, many of which collected various specimens, organic, geological, and archaeological in nature, which were kept at the Academy. Later, alumni and others donated specimens of historical and ethnological interest to the collection. The first director of the museum was Karl Dorflinger. The museum again opened to the public in 1884. Dorflinger placed emphasis on using the museum's exhibits for study and research, as well as for public education. He also urged the city to purchase land on which a building could be constructed to house the museum and the Milwaukee Public Library. He resigned in 1888, but the new museum building was built at 814 West Wisconsin Avenue and completed in 1898. In 1890, Carl Akeley, a taxidermist and biologist, noted as the father of modern taxidermy, completed the first complete museum habitat diorama in the world, depicting a muskrat colony. At the turn of the century, the emphasis expanded beyond the natural sciences and into the creation of a history museum. The museum made it through the Great Depression of the 1930s through Works Progress Administration funds and other New Deal programs, which kept the museum running and created employment beyond the existing staff. Construction of the current building began in 1960 and was completed in 1962, so the museum then moved out of what is now the Central Library Building into its current home on Wells Street. Now, interestingly enough, there was a controversy over the imposition of admittance fees on visitors who were not residents of the city of Milwaukee, which led to the museum being sold by the city to Milwaukee County in 1976. In 2017, the Milwaukee Public Museum announced their intention to relocate after results from a 2-year study indicated the existing museum was in need of extensive and costly repairs. In 2020, the Milwaukee Public Museum revealed the new construction's location on a 2.5-acre site along North 6th Street between West McKinley Avenue and West Fleet Street. Designs for the project were estimated at least $240 million, which were released in 2022, featuring a 5-story, 20,000 square foot building. Now, the controversy about losing exhibits because of the move was addressed in a recent article by Chris Foran of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and it's entitled "Thrown Out the Window. 60 years ago, Milwaukee also fretted about exhibits not moving to a new Milwaukee Public Museum," which is, of course, the current location. One reader of the paper back in 1958 wrote a letter to the paper saying, "It is almost sacrilegious to abandon the beauty housed in our fine building." The letter continued, I went on record to predict conservatively that if a new museum is built, it will have only 50% of the exhibits on display that are now in our present museum. The author of that letter to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel was mostly wrong. Most of the exhibits did transfer over from the central library building that we see today over to the museum building that we see. However, some exhibits were lost, and that is where the big concern comes in for today's issue. In his article, Foreign continues with, one big difference between the old new museum and the new museum could determine how many original exhibits survive the move this time around. Part of the reason so many dioramas were able to make the transition 60 years ago was that the Wells Street space was bigger than the original museums. The then new 480,000 square foot museum had 150,000 square feet of exhibition space, more than 25% than the one in the library. The museum being planned for 6th and McKinley will be much smaller, 230,000 square feet, with only 80,000 square feet of exhibit space when it opens. The Milwaukee Public Museum has a website called Future Museum, and it indicates that this new museum will have a 5-story building and feature 4 floors of exhibits, a rooftop terrace, an enclosed butterfly garden, a planetarium, gift shop, cafe, and green space, and an attached parking garage. Its major exhibits will include some of the following. One is called Architecture and Amenities, which is inspired by the unique rock formations at Mill Bluff State Park in central Wisconsin, as well as the confluence of Milwaukee's 3 rivers. Sounds pretty interesting. It has exhibit galleries and visitor experiences. So the 5 permanent galleries will feature several exhibits that explore the interconnectedness of nature and culture under their broader gallery theme. So not real specific there, but sounds hopeful, right? They have another area called Milwaukee Revealed. It's a gallery that will immerse visitors in city streetscapes they can explore to learn about the history of Milwaukee, the people who came to settle and live here, and its interconnected systems, neighborhoods, and ecologies. Sounds interesting too, and it looks like it might have a sweet shop as well, which the Streets of Old Milwaukee does have available too. It's fun buying candy there. It will also have a Winifred and Spencer Kellogg gallery called Wisconsin Journey. This is a gallery focused on the geological wonders and strong and varied cultures of Wisconsin. Sounds pretty interesting. Another thing called Living in a Dynamic World, which is a gallery that takes visitors on an unconventional journey to 5 distinct ecosystems across the globe, where they will be immersed in the landscapes and cultures that occupy them. So more of a macro or global view as well. And then they also have something called Time Travel, which is dedicated to exploring the deep past, including when dinosaurs roamed the earth. And by the way, I do think the museum said they are going to have the T-Rex still available, which will be cool. And talking about dinosaurs through 3 of the planet's geological chapters, Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic eras. And that was not easy for me to say. And then, let's see, finally they have the We Energies Foundation Gallery Rainforest. It's a gallery that transports visitors to the tropics to learn about the biodiversity that flourishes in tropical rainforests and the life rainforest climate support. Don't forget, by the way, they are going to have the butterfly exhibit and the rooftop terrace. So, bottom line for me, I love the current museum. I will tell you, after our kids got older, we hadn't been to that museum in probably 2 decades or close to that. Then when we heard that the current museum was going to be closing and then not closing and needed maintenance, and then finally it was going to be moving, my wife and I decided to head on over there, and that was probably within the last couple of years. We were also there last year for a fundraiser for a local school. So it was kind of neat to get back. Really enjoyed it. Don't know why it took so long to get back there, because it is a pretty amazing place. But I am very hopeful for this new location. I think it's going to be great, and I am hoping and wishing that they keep the stuff that was really cool in the current museum and bring on some new stuff. I think it's time for something new as well. So again, throw us your comments underneath this podcast, and we'd love to hear from you, hear what you have to say. So thank you for joining us on another edition of Wisconsin Places Are Cool. Really enjoy putting these podcasts together, and keep exploring.